distinguished ministers, excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I declare open the 27th session of the Commission on Science and Technology for Development and call to order its first meeting. Allow me to start by expressing my appreciation to all member states for having elected me as chair of the 27th session. It is a great pleasure for me to welcome you to the opening session of the 27th annual session of the United Nations Commission on Science and Technology for Development. It is an honor to see a high level of participation from various parts of the world. Over the next 5 days, so until Friday, the annual session will address some pressing issues in the areas of science, technology, and innovation, and we'll have a discussion on the WSIS, the World Summit on Information Society, as well. In particular, we'll consider two priority themes for which high-level panels will be convened. The first panel will be this afternoon and will be dedicated to global cooperation in science, technology, and innovation for development. On Tuesday, we'll have high-level panels in the morning and afternoon on the priority theme data for development. On Wednesday morning, we'll have take up item 2 and have a high-level panel on progress made in the implementation of and follow-up to the outcomes of the World Summit on Information Society at the regional and international levels, as well as a discussion on the WSIS Plus 20 review. This will be followed by an informal discussion on the Global Digital Compact. Wednesday afternoon will be dedicated to agenda item 4 and presentation of reports on science, technology, and innovation policy reviews and technology assessment, including the STI policy review of Seychelles and the launch of technology reports of Seychelles and Zambia. Consultations on the two CSTD resolutions on STI and WSIS will be conducted on Thursday as well as on Friday morning, followed by the closing plenary of the 27th CSTD in the afternoon. After this opening session, I am pleased to announce that we will hold a special event called A Conversation with Great Minds. This year's edition will feature a conversation with highly distinguished academic scholars at the intersection of science, technology, innovation, and socio-economic development. The event will also be streamed live on the UN Web TV. This special event will be followed by a ministerial roundtable on the role of science, technology, and innovation in reinforcing the 2030 agenda and eradicating poverty in times of multiple crises. This will be the contribution of the Commission to the theme of the 24th Economic and Social Council and the High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development. I would also like to inform you that there will be a number of side events before the main sessions from 9 to 10 a.m. and at lunchtime. For more information, I invite you to consult the program of this CSTD session. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, since the 26th annual session of the CSTD, March 2023, and in line with the ECOSOC's resolution on WSIS Plus 20 and the CSTD roadmap on WSIS Plus 20 review, adopted at our last annual session, the CSTD Secretariat has organized 2 sessions of consultations on the WSIS Plus 20 review. The 2 sessions held in partnership with ITU, UNESCO, and UNDP during the 18th IGF and the UNCTAD EU-Week 2023, respectively, were well received by the WSIS community. The CSTD's questionnaire on WSIS Plus 20 review was circulated in September 2023 under the same partnership. So far, more than 120 responses have been submitted, including from over 30 governments, counting the European Union and its 27 member states as one. Furthermore, the CSTD has been engaged in several other fora. In my capacity as chair of the CSTD, I have participated and contributed, at least I try, to contribute to the work of several bodies of the United Nations, which is precisely the function that our Commission is expected to play, given its cross-cutting mandate on technology. I participated in the ministerial session of the STI Forum 2023 under the theme Innovating to Deliver the Sustainable Development Goals, and at its 5th session on global research cooperation and funding, sharing knowledge through new partnerships. At the management and coordination segments of the ECOSOC, I presented the outcomes and recommendations from the 26th CSTD and spoke as a panelist on its roundtable in June 2023 on Transformation is Possible, Actions from the ECOSOC System, and in January on Sustainable, Resilient and Innovative Solutions to Advance Climate Action, as well as on the panel on what CSTD has done to promote and share STI resolutions to accelerate the implementation of the 2030 Agenda. I also intervened at the session on closing the digital divide towards achieving a global digital transformation. At the High-Level Policy Forum in July 2023, I moderated an online UNCTAD site event on developing innovative capabilities for sustainable development. In all these fora, I try to highlight the extensive work that CSTD has been doing to promote STI solutions for achieving sustainable development goals, including through promoting international cooperation to share such solutions. I stress that CSTD had not just facilitate discussions on global digital cooperation, but that it had also been facilitating the establishment of such cooperation to ensure that CSTD discussions led to tangible actions and that its resolutions are implemented. I know that CSTD's work is well appreciated at the ECOSOC. During my presence at the STI Forum 2023 and the ECOSOC's management and coordination segments, I held bilateral meetings with the ECOSOC presidents in 2022-2023 and now the current one for this period 2023-2024, the Tech Envoy, the co-facilitators for the Global Digital Compact, the co-facilitators for the STI Forum, with a view to strengthen synergies between CSTD and other UN processes. Besides UN events, I have worked to raise the profile of the CSTD in other fora. In September 23, I spoke as a panelist at the seminar on Apex Bio-Circular Green Startups Regional Program on Sustainable Growth. In February 2024, I spoke as a panelist at an event during the annual meeting of the American Academy of Arts and Science, the AAA, on advancing diversity, equity, inclusion in science and technology for underrepresented groups. I am thankful to Mr. Peter Major, who participated as a panelist in the Peer Learning Roundtable on SDG 17 that was organized by the ITU at the Regional Forum on Sustainable Development for UNES Region 2024. Finally, I wish to express my sincere appreciation to the excellent support provided by the CSTD Secretariat to me and to the Bureau during this period. So to all countries, to all members and observers of the CSTD, thank you very much, Secretariat. The CSTD has always provided an excellent opportunity to deliberate on important outcomes and forge partnerships in key areas for STI action in support of the achievement of SDGs. The Commission continues to serve its member states through thick and thin, as we have seen over the years of the rapid changes of technological advancement. And after all this accountability of the work of the chair, I look forward to your active engagement in the deliberations for a productive and fruitful annual session. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, let us turn to Agenda Item 1. I now invite the Commission to consider the provisional agenda and organization of work for its 27th session, this session. The provisional agenda of this session is contained in a document which is E/cn.16/2024/1 and is available in the 6 United Nations languages. The provisional agenda and documentation for the 27th session of the Commission were approved by ECOSOC in its decision 2023/320 on 7 June 2023. May I take it that the Commission wishes to adopt the provisional agenda? Well, I see no objection. It's so decided. I like the hammer. Distinguished delegates, it is now my great pleasure to invite the Secretary General of UNCTAD, Ms. Rebecca Greenspan, to make her opening remarks. Ms. Greenspan, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, dear Chair. Ana Cristina Moroso Daneves, thank you so much for your leadership and for your support. Dear Paula Narvaez, President of the Economic and Social Council and Ambassador and Permanent Representative of Chile to the United Nations in New York. Dear Doreen Bogdan Martin, Secretary General of the International Telecommunications Union. Doreen, thank you so much for being with us. Excellencies, Shamika Sidimane, Chief of the Division of Technology and Logistics, and her able team, thank you so much for your able secretariat and leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, dear friends, I want to extend a warm and heartfelt welcome to every one of you gathered here today for the 27th annual session of the Commission on Science and Technology for Development. Thank you all for coming, and thank you all who have collaborated in organizing this important session. UNCTAD has proudly served as the Secretariat of the CSTD since 1993, a time when the Internet was still in its infancy, where none of us were addicted to our phones, and where artificial intelligence was a term confined to the realm of science fiction. To say that the times have changed very rapidly is perhaps the greatest understatement of all lifetime. So allow me to say something more. The thing about rapid change is not the velocity of the change itself only. It is the fact that not everything changes at the same speed, and that this creates lacks, tensions, imbalances, which ultimately challenge our economies and our societies, our institutions, threatening to leave progress very unbalanced, leaving people behind, or leaving the progress in the hands only of a few. As we convene today, we find ourselves navigating an era brimming with technological advancements and innovations that promise to redefine the boundaries of what is possible. From agrotech to fintech, from e-governance to e-learning, from health and education to every day in our lives. For policymakers and businesses leaders alike, this data-driven, high rate of change means we are navigating uncharted waters. AI, green technologies, and the ever-expanding horizons of the Internet of Things are redefining industries, labor markets, and the very nature of what it means to be productive. These so-called frontier technologies have experienced tremendous growth in the last 2 decades. According to our latest technology and innovation report, in 2020, the market value of frontier technologies was already $1.5 trillion. By 2030, we project that this market could reach close to 10 trillion, a growth more than twice the size of the entire GDP, for example, of India. Data is the essential oil behind most of these frontier technologies, an increasingly key economic resource crucial in the future for all decision-making. But led by data, the digital divide could get wider than ever, a chasm between nations and within them. In the process, this may breed new forms of marginalization fueled by algorithmic bias, lack of digital literacy, and dwindling state capacities. The risks are real, from cybercrime to the dangers of disinformation and hate speech. We must face the technology's potential to do good, but also to be a challenge. There are security issues, political interference, and a great unknown. But the biggest risk of all is the risk of leaving billions of people in the developing world behind. In the past 10 years, 3 billion more people went online. But in 2023, as also we have heard Doreen express before, only 37% of people in low-income countries use the internet. Only 37%. An average bandwidth in least developed countries is a fifth of the global coverage. We must also create a more level playing field for companies to compete in the digital economy. Businesses in developing countries should be able to create and capture value. Developing countries must not be relegated to just using, consuming, and importing data, but must have the capabilities and opportunities to innovate, produce, and add value in the digital economy. But the digital economy is increasingly characterized by high levels of market concentration. This is why this year's CSTD, in the context of the Global Digital Compact and the Summit of the Future, will be absolutely key. We want the CSTD to be at the forefront of building science, technology, and innovation policy capacity in developing countries, ensuring they are equipped to navigate the technological landscape of tomorrow and empowered to keep pace with rapid change. Ladies and gentlemen, today we will be privileged to hear presentially and virtually from esteemed ministers and leaders from around the globe. For those of you that are with us presentially here today, a special thanks for your commitment, for being here, for travel, probably many of you, long distances to be with us. I am very eager to hear you and to hear your unique insights and experiences. Our agenda for the 27th session, as we heard from the chair, is ambitious and forward-looking. It focuses on 3 critical issues with profound global implications: data for development, international cooperation on STI, science, technology, and innovation, and the follow-up to the World Summit of the Information Society. Next year, 2025, will mark 2 decades of the WISES. This will prompt the General Assembly to undertake a comprehensive WISES Plus 20 review, which will require a lot of preliminary work, much of which will start here and will start today. So, ladies and gentlemen, the challenges before us are vast. The opportunities, huge opportunities, and risks are real and evidence of why we are at the same hopeful, but at the same time that we call for action for the developing world to be a complete part of these opportunities. This is a moment of great potential, not just peril. And there is undoubtedly the promise of a better world. But for that, we need to cooperate. We need to build capacities. We need to be inclusive. We need to understand the challenges as much as the opportunities. This session of the Commission on Science and Technology for Development mark a turning point. Let our legacy be one where we did not simply witness change, but purposefully shaped it for the betterment of our world. I really thank you.
Thank you very much. I thank very much the Secretary General of UNCTAD for her statement, which gave a very insightful overview of the current challenges in our current world, namely in the science and technology component, together with the digital cooperation and the GDC and the future of WISES. I now invite our distinguished guests to make their special address to the CSTD. So I have the pleasure to invite Ms. Doreen Bogdan-Martin, Secretary General of the International Telecommunications Union, to address the CSTD. You have the floor, Madam.
Thank you, Madam Chair of CSTD, Madam Secretary General of UNCTAD, Madam President of the Economic and Social Council, ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, good morning. It's a great honor and a pleasure to be here with you once again. And of course, this year's session, as the Secretary General has mentioned, focuses on ambitious and bold topics that are critically important: data for development and global cooperation in science, technology, and innovation for development. And of course, those topics are very much fit for the times. Now, more than ever, we need to come together behind responsible technological innovation. We need reliable, accessible, high-quality, non-discriminatory, and disaggregated data to identify needs, set priorities, deliver, monitor, and evaluate effectiveness in alignment with the Sustainable Development Goals. Ladies and gentlemen, we're 160 days from the start of the Summit of the Future. Some have compared this moment as a moment to press reset on global cooperation. Others have called it a turning point for the SDGs. I think it's fair to say that it's a once-in-a-generation opportunity. It's an opportunity to create the vision for the digital future that we want, one that works for all people and for our planet. We have been in this position before. The year is 2005. How many people in this room were at the WSIS in 2005? I see one here. I see two over there. I was there, another one back there. Okay, so it's the year 2005. We're in Tunis for the second phase of the World Summit on the Information Society that was organized by the ITU on behalf of the entire UN system. The WSIS participants gathered to make good on the Geneva Declaration of Principles and the plan of action that were adopted here in Geneva 2 years before. The stakes were high. The then Secretary General Kofi Annan put it well. He said that the task in Tunis was to move from diagnosis to deeds. The digital world of 2005 was very different from our world today. Only 1 billion people were online. We relied on dial-up connections. We used our mobile phones primarily to make phone calls and send text messages. Mobile payments were just beginning to gain traction, and so were social media platforms. And as the SG mentioned, AI was something sort of science fiction. WIS's participants knew that the Internet of tomorrow would look very different from the Internet of their time. Like us, they didn't have all the answers, but they certainly were asking the right questions, tough questions. Questions around affordability, financing, trust, skills, and much more. The way I see it, these questions fell into 3 big priorities. The first was focusing on people, not just technology, to ensure that everyone shares in the benefits. Second, making the framework for collaboration inclusive to reflect the digital world in all its diversity and complexity. And third, building adaptable processes and coordination governance mechanisms to keep pace with the challenges and the opportunities presented by technological innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, these priorities ring true today as they did back in 2005. And I think that they offer us a roadmap as we begin preparations for the 20-year review of the World Summit on the Information Society and, of course, the Summit of the Future. I would like to briefly address each of these priorities, starting first with the focus on people. I want you to think about our world as a village. Can you visualize that? These are the words of the Nobel Peace Prize laureate Shireen Ebadi when she opened the WISs in 2005. And she said, "If we think of the world as a village, then everyone should benefit from its riches, especially knowledge. Today, our global village is technologically rich, and over the past decade, the digital economy has grown 2.5 times faster than the GDP of the physical economy. And yet, as the SG mentioned, our modern village is cut off from so many riches because 2.6 billion people are still offline. Countless others are on the wrong side of the digital divide, struggling with issues around safety, slow internet speeds, inadequate skills, affordability issues, and other challenges. The gap between digital haves and have-nots is widening, especially when it comes to gender inequality. In least developed countries, for example, only 30% of women in least developed countries have access to the internet. And that holds back the entire global digital economy. Soon, we will have the Summit of the Future, as I mentioned. We will also have the 4th International Conference on Small Island Developing States, followed by the 3rd UN Conference on Landlocked Developing Countries, and the ITU will also hold its own World Telecommunications Standardization Assembly. Ladies and gentlemen, let us send strong messages to those fora that today's digital experience must be affordable, it must be safe, it must be relevant and sustainable, and it must be meaningful for all of us. Now let me turn to the second priority, making digital cooperation frameworks inclusive. It's no coincidence that the WSIS Declaration of Principles begins with we, the representatives of the peoples of the world. We, the representatives of the peoples of the world. This we holds a special meaning in the WSIS community. Over the past 20 years, WSIS has accomplished a great deal. from promoting digital inclusion to supporting capacity building initiatives. Providing an inclusive and equal platform for all remains its greatest achievement. What WSIS accomplished by adopting a multi-stakeholder model in the early 2000s was truly forward-thinking. We see it in its two critical outcomes, the Internet Governance Forum and the WSIS Forum. The IGF has solidified its role as a forum for global digital governance issues. The WSIS Forum complements this process by focusing on grassroots digital development and by bringing UN agencies together, allowing them to create a framework for collaboration. The discussions taking place at IGF and the WSIS Forum are fundamentally interconnected in the same way that the WSIS action lines and the SDGs are also inextricably linked. Let us use these forums, let us use these 2 decades of collective learnings acquired through the WSIS process, and let's accelerate progress on the SDGs. Let's integrate the voices of developing countries, women, girls, youth, and civil society into our action plans to ensure that they have a voice in shaping the digital future. And that leads me to my final priority: building adaptable processes and coordination governance mechanisms. Misinformation and disinformation, ethics, and other complex issues are at the top of mind today. But they were not always at the forefront of the agenda. And yet, the WSIS action lines anticipated these challenges early on and tackled difficult questions head-on. These action lines have stood the test of time, providing the WSIS process the flexibility needed to keep pace with the rapid evolution of new and emerging technologies. The outcome of the WSIS Plus 20 high-level forum event that will take place this year in just a couple of weeks, from the 27th to the 31st of May, will be critical in terms of shaping and gathering inputs for the Summit of the Future and the overall WSIS review that will be conducted by the General Assembly in 2025. This is an incredible opportunity for us to be able to take stock in how far we have come, what's left to do, and what are the challenges before us. For over 2 decades now, the WSIS process has been a strong example of global digital cooperation in action. We must celebrate this process as an existing, well-functioning, multi-stakeholder, UN-mandated process for digital governance. We must also understand how WSIS and other processes, like the Global Digital Compact that has been previously mentioned, and the Summit of the Future, and how these processes can complement each other. This is our opportunity to ensure that we avoid duplicating efforts and that we leverage and we build upon existing mechanisms such as the WSIS and its elements. Ladies and gentlemen, only a fraction of the SDGs are on track to be achieved by 2030. The fault lines between and within countries have deepened at a time when we really need unity. We need solidarity and cooperation to address the global challenges that threaten our collective future. While the situation may be dire, there is hope. Digital and emerging technologies can accelerate progress across all SDGs. So let us continue to align the WSIS process with the SDGs, and let us remember that in this interconnected world of ours, what affects us impacts all of us. We only have 160 days left before the start of the Summit of the Future. Let's make every day, every minute, and every second count. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Doreen. Thank you for your very inspiring speech. You made me to travel back to 2002 when David Smith launched that book, If the World Were a Village, where, well, it was about to see the world from the perspective of a village of 100 people. Now it's a classic, but it's still very updated. Thank you so much. I now have the pleasure to invite Her Excellency Ms. Paula Narves, President of the ECOSOC and Ambassador and Permanent Representative of Chile to the United Nations in Newark.
Excelencias, distinguidos delegados, amigas y amigos. Tengo el honor de dirigirme a ustedes con ocasión de la 27ª sesión anual de la Comisión de Ciencia y Tecnología para el Desarrollo. Como una de las comisiones funcionales del Consejo Económico y Social y como punto focal en el sistema de las Naciones Unidas para la Ciencia, la Tecnología y la Innovación para el Desarrollo, la Comisión desempeña un papel crucial en la configuración del discurso sobre el rol de la ciencia y la tecnología en el avance y cumplimiento de la Agenda 2030 para el Desarrollo Sostenible. El mundo enfrenta múltiples crisis en la actualidad, desafiando nuestro camino hacia el logro de los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible y subrayando la necesidad urgente de que la ciencia, tecnología e innovación contribuyan a encontrar soluciones globales. Esto es especialmente crítico para los países en desarrollo, que enfrentan un riesgo mayor de quedar rezagados en medio de vertiginosos cambios tecnológicos al no contar con los mismos recursos y capacidades. Las discusiones de este año de la Comisión de Ciencia y Tecnología para el Desarrollo y la Innovación sobre la necesidad de centrarse en el potencial de los datos y la tecnología en el logro del desarrollo sostenible para todos serán extremadamente relevantes para la conversación en curso sobre estos temas. Excelencias, distinguidos delegados, felicito los programas de cooperación técnica proporcionados por la Comisión y su Secretaría, la UNTAC, como soluciones prácticas para la ciencia y tecnología para el desarrollo. La reciente presentación sobre estos programas por parte de la presidenta de la Comisión, señora Ana Cristina Daneves, durante el segmento de coordinación del ECOSOC, destacó actividades concretas de cooperación que ayudan a los países a alcanzar los ODS y de paso proporcionan una valiosa contribución a las discusiones en curso sobre estos asuntos. Me complace ver que la Comisión continuará con este importante trabajo a través de discusiones sobre evaluaciones tecnológicas realizadas en Zambia y las Seychelles como parte de la promoción de la evaluación tecnológica en países africanos. También aplaudo la creciente colaboración entre la Comisión y el Foro Multiactor sobre Ciencia, Tecnología e Innovación para los ODS, o Foro STI. Coordinar eficazmente nuestros esfuerzos será clave para aprovechar las sinergias y retornar hacia el camino correcto para alcanzar los ODS. Espero con interés la continuación de la colaboración entre la Comisión y el próximo foro STI que se realizará en Nueva York a principios de mayo, así como con otros órganos subsidiarios del ECOSOC y procesos intergubernamentales relevantes. En ese sentido, su contribución a las discusiones actualmente en curso sobre el Pacto Digital Mundial será de la mayor relevancia. Excelencias, distinguidos delegados, debemos reconocer la rápida difusión de nuevas y emergentes tecnologías y su inmenso potencial para avanzar en los ODS, pero también los riesgos asociados. Es por esto que he propuesto al Consejo celebrar una reunión especial del ECOSOC sobre el potencial de la inteligencia artificial para los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible. Esta reunión tendrá lugar en la tarde del 7 de mayo en Nueva York. Su objetivo es examinar el rol de los marcos de gobernanza para el despliegue ético y responsable de la inteligencia artificial en su apoyo a la implementación de los ODS. También el encuentro facilitará el intercambio de conocimientos, la colaboración y el trabajo conjunto entre las distintas partes interesadas al mostrar ejemplos concretos del despliegue de la inteligencia artificial para abordar desafíos sociales complejos y lograr los ODS. Excelencias, distinguidos amigos y amigas, la cooperación multilateral y la solidaridad son fundamentales para la implementación exitosa de la Agenda 2030. También son fundamentales para aprovechar las oportunidades del avance tecnológico de manera segura, inclusiva, responsable y ética. Les deseo unas fructíferas discusiones en esta 27ª sesión y espero con interés los resultados de sus deliberaciones. Muchas gracias.
I would like to thank Ambassador Paula Narvaez for her remarks. It's a pity that she's not here today, but she tried. But I met her in end of January, and she was very interested in our session. But unfortunately, this session was overlapping with other duties that she had, and so it was impossible for her to be here. Nevertheless, she was very keen on the work of CSTD, and she asked CSTD to be active in the organization of the session on AI in the afternoon of the 7th of May. I don't know any more details about that, but after she understood what CSTD is doing, she said that I need CSTD to help more the work of ECOSOC, and not to be there, the CSTD chair, to say that during the 27th session we approved this resolution and the other resolution and blah, blah, blah. No, we have to be much more active and really be seen as a very active CSTD that can give input to the UN system, to the UN family. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we are now moving to our recurring CSTD special event called A Conversation with Great Minds. Just a break to say a proper goodbye to our distinguished speakers. So I would like to ask for Miss Didi Akinyelure, who will be our moderator for this session. And to the podium, I think that we already have Professor Yao Xingtung, Professor Wolf Dieter Hauer, and Professor Nicola Spalding. In this segment of A Conversation with Great Minds, we invited renowned scholars and thinkers to provide thought-provoking insights and latest trends from cutting-edge research at the intersection of STI and socioeconomic development. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Ms. Didi Akinwelur, who will be our moderator for this special event. Ms. Akinwelur is a well-renowned multimedia journalist with experience in television, radio, text, and digital for the BBC, CNBC, and Reuters News Agency. Ms. Akinwelur, you have the floor.
Thank you, thank you. Good morning, can everyone hear me? Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. As I was introduced, I am Didi Akinwelur. I'm a journalist with experience working for BBC, Reuters, and CNBC. And I would like to welcome you to this conversation with great minds. And this is going to be a 90-minute session. And it's themed Science in and for Society and Development. So we're going to be talking about a few different topics around that. I will be introducing my panelists to you shortly. But first of all, I'd just like to say, ladies and gentlemen, that new technologies are getting more complex and changing quickly. And there is an urgent need for us to work together. Recently, there have been exciting new discoveries, everything from artificial intelligence to advancements in renewable energy technologies and quantum computing. And so collaboration on a global scale in science, technology, and innovation is crucial to bring together financial and knowledge resources from governments, businesses, academia, and civil societies. Because this partnership helps unlock the potential of the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly 9 and 17, and ultimately aiding in the achievement of all other SDGs. And in order to achieve the international community's commitment to leave no one behind, global cooperation in science and technology is vital. So what is the issue? The issue is innovation is now largely happening within global networks, leaving many developing countries unable to fully engage due to lacking capabilities in science, technology, and innovation within their organizations. And it's crucial to boost these capabilities in these countries to enable their active participation in and gains from global innovation networks. This is vital for collectively addressing global challenges and benefiting the wider international community. But such a transformation requires significant focus on enhancing national policies, investments, and global science, technology, and innovation cooperation. So this morning, it is a pleasure to explore concepts centered around international collaboration in science and technology with 3 distinguished academic scholars, and I would like to start by introducing them. Professor Rolf-Dieter Hoyer is a physicist and former Director General of CERN. Since 2015, he has been chair of the European Commission's Group of Chief Scientific Advisors. Welcome. Professor Xing-Tong Yao is a mathematician who has made major contributions to the development of modern differential geometry and geometric analysis. He's won several world-renowned prizes, including the 1982 Fields Medal, and today he is joining the conversation remotely. Welcome. And Nicola Spaulding is a professor in material science known for her pioneering research on multiferroics. She's won several world-renowned prizes, including the Europhysics Prize of the European Physical Society, the UNESCO L'Oreal Award for Women in Sciences, and the Hamburg Prize for Theoretical Physics. Welcome. So, like I said, this morning we'll be running through a few key points, and as you hear from our great minds, I'd like to urge each of you to keep your answers tight So perhaps 4 to 5 minutes per question would be ideal, as we do have quite a bit to get through this morning. All right, so let's start. Now, we know that you all do and have done very important work. So let's talk about that first. I would like each of you to spend 5 minutes on this, and I'll start with Professor Nicholas Spalding. Perhaps you could tell us what is the focus of your most significant work as a scientist, and why does this work matter to society?
So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So I think as a materials scientist, I have the easiest job of everybody on the panel of persuading you that our research is relevant to society, because from the Stone Age to the Bronze Age to the Iron Age, every major advance in human civilization was driven by a development in materials science and engineering. And we heard earlier from our distinguished Secretaries General about the tremendous technological advances that we've had over the last decades in today's silicon age, with silicon at the core of the microelectronics that's enabling all I'd say, of our modern way of life. But this silicon revolution is soon going to be forced to come to an end as we start to run into really fundamental physical limits that are set by the size of the individual silicon atoms that make up the components in our devices. And you might think, well, that doesn't matter so much. I don't need an iPhone that's smaller or lighter or has more capabilities. But in fact, it poses an enormous problem for society, and that's in consumption of energy. We also heard in the speeches this morning about the use of artificial intelligence, the expansion of the Internet of Things. I saw data recently that suggested that very soon artificial intelligence on its own will be using as much electricity, as much energy as Sweden. And so this consumption of energy by silicon-based devices in order to continue and to expand our global standard of living is not sustainable. And so we need to take a step beyond the silicon age, and to do that, we need new materials. And if I have maybe 1 minute, I'll briefly tell you about the materials that I was involved in developing, which, as our moderator mentioned, are called multiferroics. And these combine magnetic dipoles, so magnetic dipoles made of north and south poles, like the Earth's magnetic field. They're ferromagnetic materials, with what are called ferroelectric materials, which are electric dipoles made of positive and negative charges. And this combination allows us to replace the functionalities of silicon-based microelectronic devices with new technology paradigms that use far less energy. And so we're very excited. And I should emphasize that we started this work purely as out of fundamental physics interest. It was a really basic physics and chemistry question. But now these new materials are starting to enable new technologies and devices, which we hope will help with sustainable development of microelectronics. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for that. And I'd like to bring in Professor Yao. Now, mathematics is commonly viewed as highly abstract, right? Yet it plays a crucial role in shaping cutting-edge computing technologies such as AI. Professor Yao, how do your theoretical innovations translate into concrete progress in science and technology? And could you perhaps provide instances of real-world applications based on your principles?
Right. In the last 50 years, my colleagues and I have cultivated a field in mathematics called geometric analysis. The focus has been exploring nonlinear differential equations to govern geometry, using both empirical data and this equation as a foundation. We have developed novel structures critical for understanding significant geometric phenomena. This endeavor chased the roots back to Riemann, a great mathematician in 19th century. He pioneered the construction of conformal structures on surfaces. This structure has since become pivotal in many disciplines, including so-called conformal field theory in theoretical physics and also in computer geometry. So roughly 25 years ago, my PhD student David Good and I developed a new method for constructing mesh and geometry over curved surface in real world. This approach yields highly efficient and accurate representation of intricate surfaces, such as a blade, making it invaluable for applications like face recognition and medical imaging. The conformal method that we developed has remarkably enhanced the precision of imaging with application to cancer diagnosis. In 1976, I expanded upon the concept of Riemann into high dimension, successfully addressing some important conjecture through nonlinear differential equations theory. Specifically, I developed geometric structure across a broad spectrum of high-dimensional manifolds, facilitating deep insight into algebraic equations pertaining to these structures. Approximately 8 years later, these structures were instrumental in formulating the vacuum state for string theory for high-energy physics, opening avenues for exploring the fundamental particle interaction in theoretical physics. Furthermore, some of these concepts that we developed were able to allow me and my brother to address significant nonlinear filtering problem in control theory. These achievements are built upon the foundational mathematics that we developed in many years. They are developed by mathematicians driven by pursuit of beauty and harmony. So there are many more applications that we did, but I think we beat the abstract mathematics with concrete applications, which are important for AI also. We have developed some important geometric tools to develop artificial intelligence at the same time.
All right, thank you. Thanks for that, Professor Yao. And let's bring in Professor Hoyer as well. Now, having overseen a prominent scientific infrastructure like CERN for an extensive period, what wisdom can you impart from your dual perspective as a scientist and the former head of an international scientific entity? And how do you perceive the significance of such organizations in the advancement of science?
Thank you very much. First of all, what are we doing at CERN? That's the first thing which one has to shed some light on. Well, we are trying to understand what are the basic building blocks of nature and how do they interact between. Which are the smallest particles? How does everything work in the microcosm? In other words, how is it possible that we can exist at all? And the second thing is, at the same time, we want to try to unravel the secrets of the universe, the secrets of the Big Bang. How did the universe evolve? And connecting the smallest particles with the largest structures in nature is a fascinating field of science. And in order to do this, you need a large infrastructure which cannot be done by a single country. It's really a beacon of international collaboration. CERN has 23 member states and 11 associate member states. 110 nationalities are working there together. And it inspires. The whole thing inspires, it fascinates people, it awakes the interest and connects even to philosophy. CERN is a place where people learn to work together, take the Large Hadron Collider to design and construct such a project. Many thousands of technicians, many thousands of engineers and physicists from all over the world, from many different disciplines, had to develop new technologies, develop new engineering concepts, and had to work together over decades. So what characterizes such an infrastructure? It's the work from different disciplines, work over a long time, and working together. That's the main thing. It influences the way of thinking and the way of planning. It influences the people themselves. And this is also a message which we can give to the society. It's not only in science that it could work. It's management through common goals, and it's management by convincing partners. And I would like to quote, because I'm already over 2 minutes, I want to quote the last paragraph of the editorial in The Guardian in March 2015, which was written at the restart of the CERN LHC. It reads, "The search will invoke mini black holes, antimatter, quark, gluon plasma in extra dimensions of space." That's our science, okay? The partnership so far has spun off colossal technological and computing rewards, but that is not the point. The point is that Europe is working together with its partners in a thrilling intellectual exploration that can have no conceivable commercial or political payoff. But it could, in some still intangible way, enlighten all humankind. In these otherwise murderous and mean-spirited times, that is something to salute. And that is something which characterizes CERN and which is still true or even more true today than in 2015.
All right, now, thank you all for that. You've all given us insight into the important work that you're doing and the impact on society, and it's been interesting to hear your diverse views and opinions, and I think that brings me on to the next point, because the core focus of this year's meeting is international cooperation in science, technology, and innovation, and you all have experience working in different parts of the world and or with global organizations. And so I would like to focus a little bit more now on the best ways to enhance global scientific networks by leveraging the differences in disciplines and cultures. Professor Hoyer, you were saying just now, and I'd like to come to you first, because you talked about CERN as an intergovernmental organization involving scientists from different parts of the world. And we know that numerous experiments have been constructed at CERN through international collaborations. I guess my question then is, how do we effectively integrate diverse perspectives, and to what degree can scientific language help overcome international barriers?
Well, you start with a letter point. It's a language, because everybody speaks the same language, and that's science. Yeah, that's the main point. There is competition, yes, but it's also cooperation. And science is based on both, on competition and cooperation. There is no contradiction between the two. You can compete and cooperate at the same time. Competition assures to some extent the credibility. You need to do also cross-checks. And the cooperation makes better use of resources. And to my mind at least, science without competition is not an interesting science, because then you are alone. So why are you doing it? But then you have the goal. Everybody works to the same goal, wanting to understand nature, to decipher, in our case, the microcosm. So there's one goal, and that's driven by curiosity. But you can reach the goal on different paths. What's the best way? And there you have to align now the interests. You have to have then an open mind, open discussions. Important is based on facts and evidence, but also on feasibility and on the challenges. Transparency in the decision process, because this gives then the possibility to buy into the decision. And you have to reduce the emotional part. Of course, you can be emotional. I think I am slightly emotional sometimes. However, you have to listen to arguments. Listening is the point. Understanding what the other one says, not interpreting, but understanding what the other one says. Okay, sometimes it needs a gentle steer, but okay. I think that's the main thing. Then you can work together. You have a common goal, a common language. You have very, very different experiences. You bring these experiences together, and you, maybe sometimes after years, you come to a one path which you go along. Could be the wrong one, but usually it's the right one because you have so many different opinions brought into one direction. I think that's it's easy. If you want to do it, it's easy.
All right, and I'll bring in Professor Yao here as well, because you also have many years of experience in top US and Chinese institutions with very different cultures. So in your experience, what could policymakers do to make global collaboration in science work better for all? And what are the main obstacles that need to be addressed?
Well, I think it's very important to get our scientists to be excited by some common interest that we are working on. I remember many years ago, I was a mathematician purely in geometry. I attended a conference addressing general relativity where Mr. Hawking was involved, and I got extremely excited by what he did, and then I started to contribute to that area. I demonstrate some important concepts in the field. In fact, I demonstrate some black hole existence and all that. I found it very interesting for myself. And later, a few years, I was very much excited by the development of string theory, where I was able to contribute something. And this has been now used as one of the building blocks for string theory, and I'm very pleased by that. So I think it's extremely important that we need to make the scientists to be excited by what we are doing. And when I start a subject that I don't know well, for example, biology, I need to go to the biology seminar and sitting there trying to understand what they are talking about. And usually it's painful. It takes many days or many months before I can get some simple ideas. But I think this is the same thing. If we go across from China to America, we need to understand the common goal of science, why it's so exciting. Once we got excited by the subject, I think naturally we will merge together to pursue the ground truth in science, which I think is beautiful and exciting. So recently, for example, I started to use something I did in graph theory to work in biology. And this seems to be very good and come out to be very nice results. And as a result, I'm talking with biologists all over the world, trying to get something interesting for myself. And I think common respect and also excitement should be carried through. And then we can invite people to come over together to cultivate the atmosphere that we all feel is interesting. Then science will be developed naturally. So when I was in Harvard, we ran many international conferences, and many people come all over the world to come to Harvard, which we developed many different subjects, including subjects related to physics, to relate to biology and all that. I think it's exciting. And now I'm back in China, and I'm developing similar thing. And there are different kind of custom. Chinese taste different things, but with science, I think we can get together very well. So we run some big international conference every year, and we are excited to see people come all over the world to meet and discuss and exchange ideas. And I think this is very good.
All right, so meetings like this one is are clearly very key. And I'd like to bring you in as well, Professor Spalding, because you two have been working in top US and EU institutions, and you're a member of the ERC Scientific Council, which awards funds to push research. So what would you suggest as key points for policymakers in the area of research funding, particularly in terms of international collaboration?
So the European Research Council, I'd say, is really the envy of the world for its support of the best frontier, curiosity-driven research, with excellence as the only criterion in the review process. It was certainly instrumental. It was one of the factors for me in moving back to Europe from the United States. And it's remarkable, I think, politically, that it was ever established, and I'm really honored to be a member of the Scientific Council at the moment, defending its continued existence. Most of our funding instruments are actually individual, single investigator, rather than collaborations, with the idea that individuals are the most excited about their own research, following up on the theme of excitement that Professor Yao just introduced, and really are thinking about the most frontier and curious ideas. But we do have one collaborative program called the Synergy Grant for small group collaborations, when a group of investigators think that together they can better solve a frontier scientific question. And so I actually brought with me one of my favorite examples to share with you. It's called Project Imbalance P, where the P is for phosphorus, in which 4 researchers from Spain, Belgium, the UK, and France mapped and modeled the impact of nutrient imbalance on ecosystems, economies, and biological diversity, which is clearly a collaboration that cannot be done by one team, one set of expertise. And their discoveries could lead the world towards more accurate climate modeling, more equitable policy making, and more sustainable food production. So touching on the widening aspect, widening participation, this is something that even within Europe, we're very concerned about, and in the European Research Council, how to widen participation while maintaining excellence as the only criterion for awarding grants. And this is not just a question, I think, of equity and fairness, but it's an issue that diversity is essential for world-leading research. We're working on difficult problems that need inputs from diverse people with diverse ideas, with different national backgrounds and ways of thinking and approaching science. And this, of course, includes national origin or country of the host institution. And so we have a working group within the European Research Council Scientific Council specifically on widening participation. We have a number of activities. We have a visiting fellowship program by which scientists from widening countries can work in the labs of successful ERC grantees. We work on raising awareness by visits to widening countries by council members to meet with applicants and grantees and politicians, and mentoring. And also we work very hard on continually revising our review process to ensure that diverse applicants are not disadvantaged. I would say we're not there yet. I don't think we're doing a satisfactory job. It's very difficult. If a country is not investing substantially in science, then often its best scientists leave for abroad. And so I'd be very happy after the session or during the questions to hear from you of any initiatives that you're aware of that have been successful in this direction, because it's, of course, something we're very concerned about, and I think we're not there, absolutely.
I think I'd like Professor Hoyer to take that as well, just, to suggest sort of key points for policymakers in the area of research funding when it comes to international collaboration.
Yeah, I think, you just have heard that the European Research Council, fantastic instrument, I fully agree. However, we have a problem with it because it essentially funds, as you said, individual researchers, which is okay. But we need to work together. We need to make big projects, and there the funding has to come differently. The funding has to come from the public sector in the countries which are participating in this science. So, and the key issue here is not just for a project. ERC grants are usually a few years. Now we must work over decades. We need stability. Stability means sustainability in funding. So we need a commitment from the partner countries, from the partner funding agencies. Now this commitment means, of course, trust. The partners have to trust each other that everybody fulfills the commitment which they have pledged, and trust between the funding agencies and the scientists over years, over decades. And then we can do this fantastic long-term basic science like we do at CERN now since 70 years. And CERN is still a beacon where young people want to be, where young people want to do their research. So in order to support that, to promote that, we need sustainable funding, we need the funding agencies really committing into this project, and we need the trust between the people. And I have another example on that, and that may be I can get another 5 minutes on my beloved project, which is called Sesame. Has anybody heard about Sesame? Oh, at least, well, this is not very many, a few people. Sorry? Yeah, so a few more people. What is Sesame? Sesame is synchrotron light for experimental sciences and applications in the Middle East. It is an infrastructure. The idea came up more than 20 years ago to build an infrastructure modeled according to CERN in the Middle East. But you cannot, of course, do only one science there. You have to find something which covers a lot of different sciences, from physics, medicine, to archaeology. And so it's a synchronization facility. And the members of these synchronization facilities are Pakistan, Turkey, Cyprus, Egypt, Jordan, Israel, Palestine, and Iran. It is a challenging composition, but it shows what science can do, because it works. The facility works since 5 years, produces excellent science, and again, like in the ERC, it has to be excellent science. So the projects have to be excellent. The projects are ranked by international group of scientists. The facility is oversubscribed by a factor of 2. And I can only say it really runs with a very small budget. The sustainability is difficult. But we have many friends in the world who help to keep this facility running with in-kind contributions or other contributions. So I think this is the best example what science can do together with politics or with diplomats who want to bring in their region the science up and also the understanding between the peoples. This is the main part, the understanding. Yeah? They are talking with each other. They are working with each other. We need more of such facilities, and that could be also your job. You could help us to build another facility in the world, not only in the developed world, but in regions where the young people are eager to do something, eager. They are thirsty. They have thirst for for science, for education. And such a facility is just great.
And of course, it would be great if we could replicate those types of facilities. And I guess that really begs the next question of how do we do that particularly in the developing world? Yeah.
Because Africa is the only continent which doesn't have such a facility. And in Africa, there are discussions ongoing since quite some time. But I can tell you one needs stamina. It takes a long time because people have to learn first, especially in the political area, to work together on a common goal. Yeah? To agree, first of all, we want it. That's easy. The second one is where to put it. The third one is how to put it, etc., etc. But we can all help, and facility like Sesame shows that it's possible, and we are working together with the African community to help the community to get such a facility at some stage at least. And it's a challenge.
Yes, but we'll get there. And I'd like to bring you back in, Professor Spalding, because we were talking about the ERC, and I wonder if you'd like to add some points to perhaps what Professor Hoyer has mentioned about the way you've done things versus what he's done, and also perhaps even if it's just maybe pros and cons from the EU research funding system that we could use to strengthen the integration of international research networks, and what could we do better perhaps?
Yeah, so I was just actually nodding enthusiastically, not because I had anything to add, but because I agree absolutely. Of course, we need small group individual research, but we also need large-scale facilities, and there's absolutely a need for large research infrastructures. And I think the work that's being done by Sesame and the Sesame team and is really remarkable and definitely to be emulated. Yeah, thank you.
And Professor Yao, let's bring you in. It would be good to know your thoughts as well on, sort of the key messages that you would like to pass on to policymakers in this same area of funding for research that would benefit international collaboration.
Well, first of all, I should point out that I got a lot of benefits by participating in the UNESCO fund ICTP in Trieste, Italy. It's on theoretical physics center. I go there very often, and I benefit a great deal from such a participation. We've seen many third world country physicists and some mathematicians, and I did some of the most important work by exchanging with them. So I think such an institute could be very useful. An institute with connecting the major countries like America, European countries, and also the third world. But I believe it would be useful also to form something which is centered on mathematics and artificial intelligence and all these very important subjects which connect to technology and also business. And I think the third world country would benefit by learning these things internationally, not just cornered by some major countries only. Artificial intelligence becomes more and more important. I think we should try to let the third world country also have some first-hand knowledge about them, and I believe it would be very useful. And there are many other things I think third world countries encounter is how to make the judgment about their own researcher. How good they are. Usually, they judge it only on the production of papers and citation index and all that. They need some help, I think, to make sure how to judge them. Otherwise, it becomes very routine production, and I believe there would be very good idea to try to help them out. And we need excellent scientists to interacting with them, and they will become very good in a fast manner. And I have observed in the last 10 years, many countries in Asia has been doing very well compared with the old days, partially because there are many more communications. And for example, in the subject of fused metal, one of the great awards in mathematics, in the last 10 years, we saw people from different countries, including Vietnam, Iran, and Korea, South Korea, and India. All these are doing very well. And I think this is a very encouraging sign.
Okay, thanks for that. I mean, we've talked about international collaboration and, the best ways that we can, promote that. We've also talked about the importance of funding for research in science and technology, and of course the need for us to push for fairness and inclusivity. All right, so we have the science, and the next thing that we want to do is consider how we close the gap between science and innovation. The question I have is, how do we speed up that translation from science to innovation? I'll come back to you on this, Professor Yao. Of course, you've done a lot of important work in theoretical mathematics. Can you perhaps tell us some recent developments that could be the base for marketing innovations in the future? Or perhaps you can give some examples of some theoretical model that is currently powering some of the goods and services that we use today.
I personally have developed more technology in China recently based on abstract mathematics. Some of the theory that are developed based on nonlinear filtering, so modeling after nonlinear phenomena, and could speed up a lot of calculation on nonlinear phenomena. I think they will be very useful in business. And also, as I said, we developed some theory on graphs, which can use to do data analysis, to do statistics, and to do several biological diagnosis. And I think there are a lot of Chinese students are interested in this, and we are developing it, going ahead of that. And in general, I think we are trying to work with companies. When they ask questions, we give the questions to our scientists in our center, and they will try to approach those questions, try to solve it. And as a result, we have developed much more way to bring basic science into technology, into companies. And I think this is very healthy, and I think we are doing very well in these directions. And so we have people doing data analysis, doing AI, artificial intelligence, and all that, I think is healthy.
And Professor Spalding, your research combines theoretical methods to study the fundamental physics of new materials. And usually there's a long time lag between the study or discovery of new materials and their practical applications. What could be done to speed up or close this gap between science and innovation, or the introduction of new technologies in the market?
Yes, so I think in the transition from laboratory discoveries to technologies in materials research, we have to distinguish two limits. One is where we're doing really applied research, where we're designing or optimizing materials for existing applications for specific societal challenges that we've already identified. And this can already be quite fast when the technology already exists, and we're trying to do fundamental research to improve its properties. I'd say it's also being accelerated at the moment by high throughput and machine learning methods and the use of artificial intelligence. And also what's becoming extremely important is the push to open science, both open access to scientific publications and open data, which is really not just in materials research, but is accelerating the entire scientific progress. But I want to emphasize, though, if we're only doing work on applied research, then we're limiting ourselves to applications that we've already been able to envisage. And with that, we're never going to discover something really new or go in new directions. And so we also need really frontier research, curiosity-driven research, also in material science, even though it seems like a very applied topic, really to push the boundaries of knowledge in new directions. And there, of course, there can be a very long time lag. There might not even be an application waiting for such a material that can really use the discovery at the moment. But by advancing human knowledge through frontier research today, we'll be able to put ourselves in a position to face the major societal challenges that we have tomorrow.
And Professor Hoyer, CERN is well known for giving birth to the World Wide Web. I was wondering what forthcoming breakthroughs do you see in the years ahead, perhaps away from the internet. You could also tell us some of the lesser known breakthroughs from CERN that are shaping our daily experience.
Well, let me first comment on what Nicolas Baldin said. I fully agree with this. The very important thing is you need curiosity-driven science together with applied science. I think one should forget the word basic science, applied science. It is just science. And with a curiosity-driven one, you lay the foundations for applied science, which then again lays the foundation for the next better basic science. The best example, I cannot look so much forward. Let me first look backward. Why did it take nearly 50 years until the theory of Peter Higgs and François Englert was found as a reality at CERN? It took 48 years. Why? Because we didn't have the technology, we didn't have the instruments. So one needed to do basic science to develop the instruments and then to build the instruments, to apply. And so it was a circle on this. So it took 50 years nearly. So that's an example of what Professor Spaldin just said of the unclear timescale once you start with basic science. So with the World Wide Web, nobody at CERN thought at that moment that it would change the world so much. But another example, maybe you don't know, is in medicine. CERN and other infrastructures, they are working and helping on imaging and on therapy. Imaging, the best example maybe is the PET scan, the positron emission tomography scan. Positron is the antiparticle of the electron. It was found around, now I think it's now nearly 100 years ago, 90 years ago or so, the positron was found. And it took 45 years until one realized that one can use the positron very well in imaging and in finding problems in the body. So this is one thing where CERN is also working on better instrumentation where you can combine MRI and PET in one scan, because this needs special instrumentation. These are things which one takes today as granted, but this also comes out of this research at CERN. The crystals which were developed for huge experiments at CERN are now used in this imaging. Radiation-hard sensors are very important also for the going to space, for space research and going to space. These are things which are developed or also developed at CERN. I have to be very careful. It's not only at CERN; it's also at some other infrastructures. So And it's clear it is accelerated through the open science, through the open innovation, and of course also through artificial intelligence, because you have more data. The more data you have, the better you can do there. So that helps a lot. I think these are 2-3 examples where CERN is contributing essentially all the time to the development of new instruments.
I'd also like to, comment and say that obviously education is also quite key here, and I know Professor Yao touched on this as well. Encouraging a new generation of scientists, so that we start to see these new breakthroughs, continue and come through. And I guess I'll bring you in here, Professor Yao, because I know that you're doing quite a lot of work in this area, and perhaps you could talk to us about what we need to do to help emerge more mathematical minds like yours, and perhaps talk about some of the work that you're doing with your students.
Well, I have been training a lot of students in the last 50 years, and I have more than 70 PhD students under my guidance, and they are doing very well. I majorly try to make sure they are curious about what's going on around them. And I found out in the last few years that many talented young students, so some of them as young as 14 years old, if we direct them in the right way, and they can learn much faster than what I thought. We actually train them and also make them learn both mathematics and fundamental physics. These are fundamental subjects in science, and we train them very early, up to 14 years old, and they learn very fast. In a matter of 1 or 2 years, they were able to master them. And I think it's important we train a group of them together, not an individual, so that they don't have much psychological pressure. And we have been very successful. I think many of them are doing excellent well with knowing these fundamental subjects. And they not only do math and physics, they are able to branch out to artificial intelligence and many other different subjects once they know the basic. And I think this has been very healthy. But this is rather difficult to do because there are many rules in China which do not allow you to do so. But we were able to negotiate with the government and to let them to do it in that way. In the case when I was in Harvard, we have a lot of students coming from all over the world. I think these are extremely important. People from England, from Germany, from Switzerland, from India, from China, and from, of course, America. We come together, we communicate in a free way, and every students work together and have lunch together and talk freely. And I think this has been extremely useful. There's no discrimination against anything, not gender, not race. And I think we have been able to create a nice environment that everybody are interested in the beauty and trying to solve the mystical problem in nature, and all people are excited. And I think these are very important. The importance is to make the students to be curious, to have great desire to solve interesting questions in nature. I think this has been extremely useful, and I try to broaden their mind, not just learn mathematics, but learn other subjects. Nowadays, including biology, including material science, including physics, and this has been extremely helpful. Broad mind and deep into the tools that they can use, I think is always important.
Professor Spalding, any words of encouragement for the new generation of material scientists, and any thoughts on education in science?
Yeah, so I've been very privileged, and I certainly won the birthplace lottery, being born in a developed country when it was possible for women to participate fully in the scientific community. But I'd say the most important aspect of my good fortune was my education, that I had a high quality and state-funded, it's very important, primary, secondary, and tertiary education. And so, for governments to strengthen participation in anything, not just in science, I'd say education is absolutely the most important factor. And particularly educating the girls and the women, because we've heard over and over again that the world needs science and science needs women.
Yes, bring in Professor Hoyer.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, bringing in women, young women. But isn't the problem more to keep them? Because raising the interest is, I have things, well, what I realize is that they come, they are interested, but how do we keep them? That's for me a bigger question. Do you have an answer on that? Sorry to put you on stage. Do you have an answer on that? Yeah?
I think before you say that, I'm probably a perfect example because I did study science. I studied chemical engineering and I'm a journalist today, so.
I think we would need a whole other 90-minute long panel to even start on the question. Maybe we can discuss over lunch with anyone who would also like to participate. Yeah.
And of course, there's going to be an opportunity for you in the audience to also ask a couple of questions as well. So there will be time for that. So if you have any questions, do keep those in mind. But there's another point really, and I guess I want to throw this out to our panelists because there's increased concern in society about the potential risks of new technologies on the environment or human health or society and the way we do things in general. So as we talk about closing the gap between science and innovation, how can we align shorter innovation cycles with the growing concerns about the environmental and health impacts of these new technologies? Any one of you can take this.
Yeah, so concern in society about the risks of technologies, of course, is a very valid concern. It's also shared by scientists and technologists, and I think this concern is really to be encouraged. Where it becomes problematic is if there's an unproductive or even a harmful reaction to that concern. And here I see two areas where we need to do better. One is, again, in education. As scientists, we need to better communicate how science works and how we assess and mitigate risk. And in our schools, we need to teach young people how to make rational decisions based on data and how to assess the reliability of data sources so that they become informed citizens. And of course, this gets more and more difficult with the proliferation of fake news and so on. And then the second area, I think, we really need to support is frontier research in the social sciences and humanities. Of course, I'm a huge fan of STEM subjects, but not at the expense of the social sciences and the arts and the humanities, because this is where we learn about our society and our culture and how people respond to risk and make decisions and how we learn from our history and so on.
Yeah, again, I can nothing else than agreeing with that. I think what it needs is openness and transparency from the scientists. Clear demonstration of the facts of what we know, what we don't know, and what we cannot know. I think we should not be shy to tell people what we cannot know. That's we have to explain the uncertainty. Uncertainty is very difficult for people to understand. All results which we get out have some uncertainty. And you have to put that into the right framework. You have to be transparent about this, and you have to discuss with the people. Whoever has a concern, excuse me, has to be taken serious. Yeah? Take it serious, discuss with the people. When we switched on the LHC, we had a big problem with people telling us that we will swallow the world with a black hole. So we took that serious. The concerns were answered, and CERN wrote a highly scientific paper which was only understandable for the people working in the field as a first paper, a large one putting everything together. And that was then, in a second step, broken down to something which was understandable to all types of scientists. And that was then again broken down to a short paper understandable for laymen. But you had all the basis on this short paper in the other paper, so everything could be checked. So there was absolute openness and seriousness about that. But what I'm sometimes missing in the general public and also sometimes with scientists is the possibility or the ability to think critically. Critical thinking is something which one has to learn. You have to learn to judge. And that's sometimes difficult, but you can learn it.
I like that, transparency and embracing uncertainty. I was going to bring in Professor Yao, but I'm not sure we have that much time, unless there's something that you want to add on to that very quickly. Yeah. Professor Yao?
Okay, I just say a few words. I think the modern development of artificial intelligence is getting dangerous if we do not apply some ethic to it. And I believe we should should have some rules for people developing AI and could not harm human beings and the thinking of it. So I think this is a new development, exciting, and yes, should have some moral constraint on it. That's all I want to say.
All right, thank you. Now, I'd like to move into another area, and we've touched on this a little bit. A key concern, obviously, we talk about science, technology, and innovation is the risk of leaving behind developing countries in advancements, and we've talked about it a little, but we need to talk more about how these developing countries can benefit from advancements in science and technology. The question really is, how do we accelerate the diffusion of new scientific findings, favor the uptake of new technologies, and also close the gap that exists with most advanced countries. I want to start with Professor Hoyer on this, because you were recently appointed as a member of a think tank with a view to set up a Pan-African project for the African light source. It would be great to hear more about this project, and then perhaps you could also tell us some of the challenges that have come with implementing such an ambitious project like this one.
Well, to some extent, I mentioned some of the challenges already beforehand when I was talking about Sesame, because an African light source, a Pan-African light source, is running through the same challenges and is confronted with the same challenges. The first thing, in order to establish something, is there has to be a desire in the region. You cannot go there and tell people you need that. The scientists needs to want it. That's the point. The scientists and the community. So they have to build up a community. And this community you can build up by, for example, working together with established facilities of the same kind. That's what we are doing with the Pan-African yeah, it's not. I'm not sure if it's already a real project with this initiative, and Sesame has a memorandum of understanding with the people there, so that we work together. That people can come to Sesame and getting trained, The European light sources are very strongly also helping there to build up a community, and the European Commission is supporting that. So you need the desire in the region, you need help from the outside. But the key issue here is it has to be not a teacher-student working, it has to be a par, it has to be on the same eye height. That's very important that one speaks with the same eye height. It's not teaching people, it is really talking with people, discussing with people, taking both sides serious. That is important. And then, of course, the people in the region, the scientists in the region, they have to convince the politicians to get the act together and to decide on one side. This takes time, because this is not usually, very often not based on facts, but on agendas. But this is one thing, they have to come up with a side or with a choice of with several sides, and then the community can, based on facts, decide where to put it. That was the way Sesame was put in Jordan. We are not yet there, but the discussions are ongoing, and recently an encouraging signal was that the African countries seem to focus on one initiative, because until recently there were two. And if you have nothing, it's better to concentrate on one than to come up with two.
All right, now I wonder if we have any questions or comments from the audience. We can take a couple of these. We do have probably about maybe 15 to 20 minutes left or so. Any questions at all? Do we have 5? 5 minutes. Okay. All right. Palestine.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, and very good afternoon to everyone. I think we are missing something very important during this discussion. It is the political will. If we need really to share knowledge and the know-how and transferring the technology, we need this political will. And the political will needs trust. I think this morning one person mentioned this word. So we have to build this trust and to see how can we transfer this technology from developed countries to developing countries. We do have some infrastructure, but we need more to strengthen and enhance our infrastructures to receive this technology. So I think from our side, the political will is very, very important. I thank you.
All right, political will and trust, yes?
Well, I think I am the person who mentioned the word trust. And I also mentioned that the politicians have to get their act together. This is what you said with will. And I can confirm that Palestine is an excellent member of Sesame. So I can tell you that I'm pretty happy the way it's going in Palestine for Sesame.
I was part from the delegation, the Palestinian delegation, 2017, I mean, when we signed the MOU with CERN. I was part, and I remember very well the Sesame project, successful one. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the audience? Okay. Iran, yes.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Good morning, colleagues, and thank you. At the very outset, allow me to express my appreciation for the excellent arrangements by the UNCTAD Secretariat. Though it is called that since 1993, UNCTAD is giving services as a secretariat, for the ECOSOC, for doing so of the CSTD Commission on Science and Development. But I think that UNCTAD is not only the Secretariat, just giving the services for that issue, and it has stepped into the concept. I really appreciate, UNCTAD Secretariat, particularly Madam Shamika and his colleagues and team for the excellent working on this steadfasting, the knowledge and knowledge sharing during the CSTD. I thank you. Without any further ado, I go straight to the somehow a kind of comment that made by a previous speaker, my colleague from Palestine. And when we talk about the science and technology, this has got a very great role, especially if we look at the Summit of the Future or GDS, Global Digital Compact. This has got a foot on there. And most of the specialized agencies positioned in the Geneva, they have hands into that issues as well. Since I landed in Geneva 1.5 years, we have heard a lot about energy transition, green, economy, the sort of things that is totally has got a nexus to the issue of the cutting edge technologies and science that most of the developing countries are deprived from. This sort of this balance, I think that require the cooperation that has already been mentioned, that is embedded into the political will of the whole world. While we are fostering and encouraging South-South cooperation as a global South, we express our deep emphasis on the North-South cooperation, and South-South cooperation can never be substitute for the North-South cooperation. Especially we focus on the developed and developing countries cooperation in that regard, if you would like, to see something in practice to happen. And maybe we can propose at this moment that we can envisage an international conference on technology transfer and science and technology in order to bring the galaxy of thoughts to sit together and to find a way forward. I appreciate it, and I thank you.
Thanks for that comment. I don't know if anyone on the table would want to touch on that, maybe.
I appreciate your bringing up the point about the importance of North-South collaborations. And actually, I just wanted to very briefly close my comments with a model example, I think, of an international research collaboration involving participation of developing countries, specifically in materials research, which I took from my colleague at my university, Professor André Studart, who's Professor of Material Science. And it's a project supported by the Brazilian government and the United Nations Environments Programme Gold Without Mercury initiative, which aims to develop and implement approaches to turn artisanal gold mining into sustainable and safe economic activity for Amazonian coastal communities. And the specific project that my colleague is involved in is to identify microbial communities in local soils that can process gold without the use of mercury, which of course is a terrible contaminant. And what to me makes this really a model North-South collaboration is, first of all, it uses indigenous knowledge, the local knowledge about the soils and the soil behavior. It's a locally driven collaboration, so the key players are from SENAI, the National Service for Industrial Training in Brazil, and Sao Paulo University. It's addressing frontier materials research questions. Andres, my colleague's student, will get a PhD out of this collaboration. And of course, it's addressing many of the Sustainable Development Goals, socioeconomic inclusion, health, water, and so on. So this is, I think, is an extremely important point, that how to build effective North-South collaborations that are interesting and meaningful for both sides. So thank you for that.
All right, we've got a question or comment from Hungary.
Thank you, moderator. I would like, first of all, thank the professors for the excellent discussions and the new information we had concerning the cooperation in the scientific field. The CSTD itself is treating this as a priority theme during this session, but we have another one, that is data for development. And I'm turning to Professor Hoyer for some kind of advice. The CERN has been producing for 50 years petabytes or even higher amount of data for a long, long time. So you have been doing it for 15 years ago, already petabytes, when people didn't even think about it, when we were talking about megabytes or eventually kilobytes. So, and I can see that you are sharing the data based on principles. Now, CSTD has been mandated to dwell into the realm of data governance. So I wonder what your experience, because you are 15 years ahead at least, what your experience about sharing data, what are the principles we should follow, and how to do this.
In principle, that needs a long answer, I assume, which would... So first of all, you have to clarify who owns the data. That's, of course, something which needs to be clarified. And then you cannot only disseminate the data themselves, you also need the metadata. You have to understand what was the status of the experiment at that time, what are all the other boundaries from simulations, etc. So it's a huge amount of data which comes in addition. I think this is too much which you can give in a first step open. So what you have to do is you have to condense it into data which are digestible for new usable by new algorithms and to work with these data. This is the way which the LHC experiments at least are doing it. From the previous accelerators, not everything is stored because one only learned roughly 15 years ago that how important it is, because if you don't build another accelerator of the same type, you can't repeat the experiment. You need to store the data. Yeah? It's saving not only the need to store them, but also saving money. There might be new developments and you want to reanalyze the data. But giving them out must be on a level where the data can be understood by the non-experts of an experiment. I have no negative voices heard yet, so it seems to work, but I'm not sure how many people are looking into these data. But the main thing is make them available.
All right. I think that's a good place to leave things. Fortunately, we've run out of time, and I'd just like to thank you all, Your Excellencies and distinguished ladies and gentlemen. We've come to the end, and it's been a truly insightful session. I'd like to thank my panelists. Thank you for your remarkable achievements and all your comments and inspiring discussions that we've had today. Professor Nicola Spaulding, Professor Xing-Tung Yao, thanks for joining us, and Professor Dieter Hoyer. Thank you for sharing your great minds with us today and for the revolutionary work that you have done and that you continue to do. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we urge you to continue the conversation wherever you are so that we, together, we can encourage further cooperation in science, technology, and innovation with the goal of achieving a better and more sustainable future for all. My name is Didi, and it's been an honor to be your moderator this morning. Thank you, and have a good day.
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but we were here talking about Professor José Maria Ngago, a Portuguese former minister that was a CERN researcher and a very good friend of international organizations in science policy. So thank you very much, Ms. Akinul, for having moderated this special event, even if I cannot pronounce your name correctly. But thank you very much for moderating this session. And I wish to thank all our special guests for this very insightful and interesting exchange of views. So we are short of time, but let us now turn to our ministerial roundtable on the role of science, technology, and innovation in reinforcing the 2030 agenda and eradicating poverty in times of multiple crises. This roundtable is an opportunity for ministers and other high-level policymakers to exchange experience, lessons learned, and good practices, to discuss national and global challenges and put forward recommendations for policies and actions in STI to achieve the full implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The outcome of this discussion will be reflected in the report of the annual session of the CSTD to be submitted to ECOSOC and to the 2024 High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development under the auspices of ECOSOC for consideration. A series of questions for discussion were proposed in the concept note that has been made available, and I look forward to listening to our high-level participants in this context. Let me remind participants that, as announced in the program, interpretation services for interventions by remote participants is limited to a cumulative total of 30 minutes for session. Once the 30 minutes is exceeded, interpretation will subsequently be provided only for in-person interventions. We have many interventions scheduled under this ministerial roundtable, and which is a very good thing. And now in the morning, we only have like 40 minutes available. But I would like to ensure that the CSTD has an opportunity to hear all the interventions from the ministerial roundtable, given its importance. Therefore, if we need more time, the roundtable will resume this afternoon after we have concluded the panel discussion on the priority theme, Global Cooperation on Science and Technology and Innovation for Development, under Agenda Item 3. So, let me now turn to our ministerial discussion, and I have the pleasure to invite His Excellency Mr. Yassin El Mahidi Walid, Minister of Knowledge, Economy, Startups and Micro Enterprises from Algeria. Please, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you. Honorable Chair, esteemed delegates, ladies and gentlemen. As Algeria's Minister for Knowledge Economy, Startups and Knowledge Economy, Startups and Micro Enterprises, it is my privilege to address this distinguished roundtable on the role of science, technology and innovation in bolstering the 2030 agenda during times of crisis. Today I am proud to share both our local initiatives and international commitments aimed at fostering an ecosystem for sustainable development and innovation. Locally, Algeria has implemented several transformative initiatives to support our knowledge economy in the last few years. Through implementing innovation hubs and incubators, offering mentorships, networking opportunities, and investment in sectors such as renewable energy, biotechnology, supporting the growth of homegrown innovations. Partnerships with academia, by bridging the gap between education and institution and the industry, ensuring that we prepare a workforce that is equipped to handle the future challenges and opportunities. And also by implementing agricultural reforms and initiatives, by simplifying business operation and providing direct funding and favorable tax conditions, we encourage entrepreneurship at a fundamental level. We are witnessing tangible national success through our proactive policies. For example, the implementation of tax exemptions and tax credits for startups in Algeria. We offer tax credits for covering up to 30% of research and development expenses, underscoring our commitment to fostering innovation-driven economy. Research and development, and our goal is to elevate our R&D expenditure to reach 3% of our GDP by 2028. The strategic investment in innovation is crucial as we transition from a resource-based to a knowledge-based economy. By also covering all the expenses related to securing intellectual property, very recently we launched an initiative called Self-Entrepreneurship that's allowing businesses to be started in less than 5 minutes online. We created also a fund that had been established for innovative startups with investments totaling up to $400 million to bolster the growth of innovative startups. Algeria has 2 million students and 250,000 graduates annually, a growing percentage of whom launch startups. Our university-based incubators are vital. Impressively, 38% of startup funders are female funders, and 52% of them, of CTOs of our startups, are also women, highlighting the inclusive nature of our entrepreneurial landscape. In transitioning from a resource-based to a knowledge-based economy, Algeria has come to the profound realization that talent is our most valuable and investment-worthy asset. Our commitment to nurturing a vibrant ecosystem for innovation and entrepreneurship stems from the understanding by giving the priority to the development of human capital and intellectual assets. We lay the foundation for sustained economic growth and prosperity in today's rapidly evolving global landscape, where the value of ideas often surpasses that of traditional commodities. Investing in knowledge creation and dissemination is not just prudent, it's an imperative. And Algeria stands ready to lead this charge, empowering our people to unlock their full potential and driving forward the transformation toward a future defined by ingenuity and prosperity. Moreover, in recognition to the profound impact of AI on the global economy and the labor market, Algeria has made significant strides in preparing our workforce for this digital revolution. 2 years ago, we established a higher school for artificial intelligence, emphasizing the importance of investing in training and education in emerging technologies. As AI and generative AI continue to disrupt industries worldwide, it is imperative that we prioritize reskilling and upskilling initiatives to ensure our workforce remains competitive and adaptable in this rapidly evolving digital landscape. Furthermore, recognizing the critical nature of international collaboration, Algeria actively seeks partnerships within the framework of South-South and Triangle cooperation. This collaboration enhances our collective capacity to address the SDGs, leveraging diversity, experiences, and innovation. On the international front, our commitment to fostering a supportive environment for innovative startups across Africa was galvanized by the recent African Startup Conference held in Algiers. This event led to a very important ministerial declaration with several key agreements aimed at combating the continent-wide brain drain, enhancing regional cooperation, and accelerating economic transformation through Pan-African startup strategy, implementation of startup visa, and enhanced legal frameworks to facilitate the free movement of talents across our continent, to enhance the investment in research and development and digital economy, and the creation of regional technological hub. Our active engagement in these initiatives reflects our dedication to the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly those aimed at eradicating poverty and promoting sustained, inclusive economic growth. By nurturing an environment that encourages innovation and resilience, we contribute to a model of development that is not only sustainable, but also equitable and inclusive. We advocate for a sustainable focus on science and technology and innovation at future sessions in the Economic and Social Council and the higher-level political forum on sustainable development. Let us remember that the challenges we face are great, but so too our collective determination to overcome them. As we chart the course towards a future defined by innovation, industry, inclusivity, sustainability, let's not falter in our resolve together. We possess the power to shape the world where every individual has the opportunity to thrive and contribute meaningfully to our shared progress. Thank you for your intention, and may our collaborative efforts pave the way for a brighter tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. And it's very interesting that you have in our title, Knowledge Economy, Minister of Knowledge Economy. I don't think that we have other ministers in the world with this title, which I like very much because it's an updated title of what is going on in the world. So now I'll give the floor to Her Excellency, Miss Maria do Rosário Bragança Sampo, Minister of Higher Education, Science, Technology and Innovation from Angola. Senhora Ministra, dou-lhe a palavra. Muito obrigada.
Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, allow me, first of all, to recognize in the name of the Ministry of Higher Education, Science, Technology and Innovation of Angola, the relevance of participating on CSTD sessions. STI play a fundamental role in finding innovative solutions to complex challenges, such as to education, healthcare, clean water, food security, and clean energy, which are crucial to eradicating poverty. Furthermore, STI is a strong driver of economic growth, creating job opportunities for highly skilled professionals who generate innovative solutions, with a special emphasis on those that promote social inclusion. This, in turn, reduces inequalities and improves the quality of life of the most vulnerable communities. In the midst of crises such as pandemics, natural disasters and conflicts, eradicating poverty becomes even more challenging. However, STI play a crucial role in responding to this crisis and reducing poverty through the development of effective solutions such as more resilient health systems, sustainable agricultural methods, clean energy technologies, and access to information and quality education. Additionally, social and technological innovation can create economic opportunities for the most vulnerable, empowering communities and individuals to overcome poverty in a sustainable way. In the Angolan National Development Plan for 2023 to 2027, which is the instrument for planning government action for a 5-year period within the framework of implementing long-term strategy, STI is considered a tool for significant strides towards achieving SDGs and promoting inclusive and sustainable development. 2 programs focus on higher education and science technology innovation, namely improving the quality of higher education and developing scientific and technological research, and promoting innovation and technology transfer, whose actions converge towards improving the national scientific system and consequently contribute to technological development and innovation. For the Angolan government, strengthening research and development and innovation boosts actions to achieve SDGs 1, 2, 13 and 16 through the transfer of knowledge produced in academia to entrepreneurs and firms. This approach particularly focuses on priority sectors for economic development, namely fostering economic growth, job creation and innovation, which in turn can reduce poverty by providing opportunities for income generation and improving livelihoods, enhancing agricultural productivity, improving food security, and promoting sustainable agricultural practice through innovations in crop breeding, irrigation techniques, and distribution systems. Driving research and development of renewable energy sources, sustainable technologies, and climate-resilient infrastructure to mitigate the effects of climate change and promote environmental sustainability. STI can support the development of effective governance systems, enhance access to justice, promote transparency, and strengthen institutions through the use of innovative technologies such as e-governance and digital platforms for citizen engagement. It is crucial to note that STI solutions should be context-specific and culturally suitable to effectively address the needs of diverse communities and socioeconomic factors. Community involvement must be considered, avoiding exclusive reliance on technology. On the other hand, there is a need to ensure that STI solutions are accessible and beneficial to all, especially marginalized communities, to avoid exacerbating inequalities, and must be focused on long-term sustainable solutions rather than quick solutions that may not address underlying issues. Furthermore, the risk of lack of collaboration cannot be ignored. Therefore, successful actions require multi-stakeholder partnerships to leverage diverse expertise and resources for more effective and inclusive solutions. For Angola, the consistency of STI contribution to sustainable development is evident in the ongoing review of the national STI policy taking place with support of UNTAD and the Organization of African, Caribbean, the Pacific and the European Union states to better align it with designs of the 2030 Agenda and the African Union 2063 Agenda. In 2022, the Ministry of Higher Education, Science, Technology and Innovation of Angola, the UNDP in Angola and UNTAD concluded a study on innovation and entrepreneurship in Angola. This study serves as a diagnosis for steep review, making the necessary information publicly available to actors in the national innovation and entrepreneurship system. Finally, I would like to emphasize that CSTD could serve as a central platform for coordinating efforts to make STI agendas more globally inclusive and provide directionality to guide the global STI development towards a more equitable and sustainable future, facilitating collaboration between stakeholders. CSDT could establish mechanisms to monitor progress toward achieving inclusive and sustainable STI goals, providing accountability and guiding adjustments to strategies as needed. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Madam Minister from Angola. And now I'll give the floor to Her Excellency Miss Leocadie Ndakayazaba. So sorry for misspelling your name. Minister of Communication, Information Technology and Media from Burundi. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, girls. Excellences, Mesdames, Messieurs les ministres, distingués délégués et invités, c'est avec un grand honneur que je prends la parole aujourd'hui lors de cette table ronde ministérielle cruciale dédiée au rôle essentiel de la science, de la technologie et de l'innovation dans le renforcement de l'agenda 2030 et dans la lutte contre la pauvreté en ces temps de crise mythique. Je suis profondément convaincue que les sciences, les technologies et les innovations jouent un rôle central dans la réalisation des objectifs de développement durable, en particulier les ODD 1, 2, 13 et 16. Permettez-moi de souligner quelques points clés qui émergent de cette discussion. Tout d'abord, les sciences, technologies, innovations offrent un éventail sans précédent de solutions innovantes, durables et résilientes pour relever les défis complexes auxquels nous sommes confrontés. De la réduction de la pauvreté à la promotion de la paix et de la justice, en passant par la lutte contre le changement climatique et la réalisation de la sécurité alimentaire, les possibilités offertes par les avancées technologiques sont vastes et prometteuses. Cependant, nous devons également être conscients des leçons que nous devons tirer pour éviter les pièges potentiels dans l'exploitation des sciences, technologies et innovations. L'inclusivité, la durabilité environnementale, la sensibilité aux besoins locaux et la protection des données sont autant de la considération cruciale que nous ne devons pas négliger dans notre quête de solutions technologiques. Je voudrais souligner l'importance de la coopération mondiale en matière de STI pour accélérer les progrès vers la réalisation des ODD. La Commission pour la science, la technologie et le développement a un rôle vital à jouer dans ce domaine. En facilitant les échanges de meilleures pratiques, en encourageant les partenariats publics-privés et en soutenant le renforcement des capacités nationales. La Commission des sciences, technologies et développement pour contribuer de manière significative à renforcer la coopération internationale en matière de sciences, technologies et innovation. En conclusion, je tiens à réaffirmer l'engagement du Burundi à soutenir les initiatives visant à exploiter le plein potentiel des sciences, des technologies et de l'innovation pour réaliser l'agenda 2030. Ensemble, en mettant en œuvre des politiques et des actions concertées, nous pouvons surmonter les défis actuels et créer un avenir plus durable et équitable pour tous. Je vous remercie.
Je vous remercie, Madame la Ministre, pour votre intervention. And now I will give the floor to Her Excellency Ms. Jelena Begovic, Minister of Science, Technology, Development, Innovation from Syria. You have the floor, Madam Minister.
Dear delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to address this esteemed gathering at the Ministerial Roundtable in front of the Republic of Serbia. As the world navigates through these turbulent and uncertain times, it becomes increasingly evident that our collective commitment to harnessing the power of knowledge, innovation, science, and amongst all, collaboration is the paramount in achieving sustainable development and prosperity for all. The 2030 Agenda serves as our blueprint for a better world, outlining ambitious goals to address pressing global challenges, including poverty, inequality, climate change, pandemics, but also peace. Yet the path to achieving these goals is filled with obstacles, so we are already lagging far behind, particularly now in front of the unprecedented crisis we face today. It is in these moments of hardship that the true value of science, technology, and innovation gives hope for the better future for all. Science provides us with a deep understanding of the complex systems that govern our world, enabling us to anticipate and mitigate the impacts of crisis. Our minds empower us to develop innovative solutions, that enhance resilience, improve livelihoods, and bridge gaps in access to essential services. Innovation drives progress, fostering creativity and adaptability in the face of uncertainty. As representatives of our nations, we have a shared responsibility to leverage these mechanisms effectively, ensuring the delivery of sustainable, resilient, and innovative solutions to those most in need. This requires a commitment to collaboration both across borders and sectors, recognizing that the challenges we face are interconnected and multifaceted. The Commission's contribution to the 2024 theme of the Economic and Social Council and the high-level political forums on sustainable development builds upon the momentum generated by the Ministerial Declaration of 2023. It underscores our unwavering dedication to advancing the 2030 Agenda, reaffirming our commitment to leave no one behind. Furthermore, I'm pleased to highlight the recent adoption of United Nations a resolution establishing the International Decade of Sciences for Sustainable Development 2024-2030. This landmark initiative proposed by the Republic of Serbia and the partnering countries underscores the vital role of science in driving progress towards our shared sustainable development. STEM, but also humanities and social sciences. Serbia has consistently demonstrated its commitment to promoting the importance of science, not only on a national level, but also on an international scale, recognizing it as a cornerstone of development and progress. In our pursuit of sustainable development, let us not forget the fundamental principle of inclusivity. The eradication of poverty demands not only the economic prosperity, but also social justice and environmental protection. Moreover, let us remember that our decisions have far-reaching implications for the future generations. Let us seize this opportunity to catalyze meaningful change, embracing the transformative potential of science, technology, and innovation to build a more just, equitable, and sustainable world. In closing, I urge each of you to redouble your efforts in advancing the 2030 Agenda, leveraging the power of science, technology, and innovation to overcome the challenges we face. Together, let us forge a path towards a brighter future for all. Science has a power. It's a soft power, but it's very strong power. So let's use it through collaboration, no boundaries, no borders, because we have the same goal, a better world for the whole humankind. Thank you very much for the attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Minister. It's so good to hear these messages for peace through science, technology, and innovation. So now I'll give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Abhay Karandikar, Secretary of Science and Technology from India. Please, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Excellencies, distinguished member, delegates, and other participants. Greetings from India. Let me first congratulate the entire team for organizing this 27th UN CSTD. I'm happy to note that we are addressing global challenges through the interfaces of science, technology, and innovations in these challenging times. Thank you for your kind invitation to this meeting to share my thoughts here. I endorse the agenda of this meeting, which is primarily focused to stress the role of science, technology, and innovation in reinforcing the 2030 Agenda. Eradicating poverty and removing the social disparity is certainly a global concern, including for India. While enabling the established platforms for eradicating poverty, I see a tremendous role of technological interventions in addressing the social disparity. We have seen and experienced the technology as a driver for accelerated economic growth. We had also discussed in the past on emergence of technology as a cause for inequalities as well. This truly calls for a well-drawn and well-thought-out strategy for balancing the technological interventions for societal needs. We would like to reinforce the potential of technologies to reduce the inequality in society and ensure equitable access and use technology and solutions that responds to the needs of the society. We should ensure technology as an enabler. CSTD could play a larger role to identify gap areas in the science, technology, and innovations and enable a platform or engage for wider international partnership in a way that could serve for the interest of all. Excellencies, India has transformed tremendously in the technological front in recent years. We have dedicated programs to engage research in emerging fields such as quantum technology, green energy, climate change, cyber physical systems, and sustainable development. We also want to highlight the role of startups in connecting technology with the society. India has witnessed an unprecedented surge in creation and funding of startups during the last 10 years. We have more than 100,000 startups working in different areas of science and technology. Several factors like increased internet penetration, digitizations, particularly the digital payment systems, and the direct benefit transfer schemes of the Government of India, and several such initiatives have fueled the growth of sectors like fintech, financial equality or a financial inclusion, transportations, logistics, food and agriculture. India is now deeply looking at the deep tech sectors as well. We connect through our Department of Science and Technology with many countries in all the continents across the globe. I do believe that the collaborations, given the diverse natures of the problems, will help in bringing impactful solutions with minimum investments of time that can impact globally. The science, technology, and innovations development is becoming more of an interdependent mode rather than independent, especially when the demand and the resources are diverse. The world is more connected. The developing, and all other nations are facing global issues, and therefore a common agenda could be envisaged. As India concluded the G20 presidency, we have addressed, among other issues, the role of science and technology in energy security and also in environment. UNCSTD could lay a very specific targeted agenda of science, technology, and innovation networks and policy to support effective technology and knowledge transfers. The modalities and way forwards can then be taken up accordingly. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary of Science and Technology. And now I'll give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Wilfredo González Vidal, First Vice Minister, Minister of Communications from Cuba. Usted.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta, estimados delegados. Agradezco la oportunidad de participar en este debate sobre un tema tan importante en los esfuerzos para la promoción del desarrollo sostenible y la implementación de la Agenda 2030. En las últimas décadas, la humanidad ha alcanzado un potencial científico-técnico sin precedentes, con una capacidad extraordinaria para generar riqueza y bienestar que en condiciones de mayor igualdad, equidad y justicia podría asegurar niveles de vida dignos y sostenibles para todos los pobladores del planeta. Para subrayar el papel de la ciencia, la tecnología y la innovación en el debate político asociado al desarrollo, se celebró en La Habana, Cuba, en el pasado mes de septiembre, una cumbre del G77 y China. Los resultados de los debates de los jefes de Estado y de Gobierno y demás personalidades presentes en La Habana quedó plasmado en la declaración final de esta cumbre, la cual guarda una gran relación con la temática de esta mesa redonda de alto nivel. Es por ello que hemos solicitado a la Secretaría de la Comisión que incluya la declaración de La Habana sobre retos actuales del desarrollo, papel de la ciencia, la tecnología y la innovación como documento oficial del 27 periodo de sesiones de la CSTD y sea colocada en su página oficial. Señora Presidenta, estimados delegados, permítame abordar brevemente la puesta en práctica efectiva de una solución sostenible, resiliente e innovadora. Me refiero al enfrentamiento exitoso de la epidemia de la COVID en Cuba, que contiene lecciones que pudieran ser extrapolables a otros contextos y otras situaciones de crisis. Cuba movilizó para el control de la COVID-19 fortalezas que habían sido construidas en las décadas precedentes, tales como la existencia de un sistema único de salud de amplia cobertura, gratuito y accesible, que había cosechado ya éxitos en la educación sanitaria, la reducción de la mortalidad infantil, el aumento de la esperanza de vida al nacer y la cobertura de vacunaciones. A ello se sumó el capital humano, médico y científico, que permite contar con la mayor tasa de médicos por habitantes del mundo, y la existencia de una industria farmacéutica y biotecnológica nacional con base científica. Estas capacidades, que existían previamente a la pandemia, permitieron la implementación de un protocolo nacional de actuación, la reducción de la transmisión y la letalidad y el desarrollo y producción de 3 vacunas autóctonas. Además, se estableció una amplia comunicación entre el sector científico y la dirección del Estado, en el asesoramiento continuo para la toma de decisiones. El gobierno cubano ha declarado que la ciencia y la innovación constituyen uno de los 3 pilares para su gestión de conjunto con la transformación digital y la comunicación social. Este ingente esfuerzo se llevó a cabo, al igual que en muchos otros países en desarrollo, enfrentando los colosales desafíos que son consecuencia del injusto orden internacional vigente. A esta compleja situación se añaden los efectos de la aplicación de medidas coercitivas unilaterales que violan la Carta de las Naciones Unidas y el derecho internacional. En el caso de Cuba, durante más de 6 décadas ha sido víctima del bloqueo económico, comercial y financiero impuesto por el gobierno de los Estados Unidos, que constituye el principal freno para el desarrollo económico y social del país. Ningún ciudadano o sector de la economía cubana escapa de las afectaciones provocadas por esta ilegal política, y el ámbito de la ciencia y la innovación no es la excepción. Señora Presidenta, estimados delegados, el enfrentamiento a la pandemia a nivel global se caracterizó por la rápida y eficaz cooperación entre científicos de todo el mundo, lo que generó soluciones urgentes a numerosos problemas sanitarios y entre ellos las vacunas. También se evidenció que el Estado tiene roles importantes que cumplir en la producción, difusión y el uso del conocimiento. Toda esta experiencia acentúa la conveniencia de la cooperación científica global, habitualmente limitada por la dinámica privatizadora del conocimiento. Es preciso derribar las barreras internacionales que obstaculizan el acceso al conocimiento por los países en desarrollo y el aprovechamiento por parte de ellos de factores tan determinantes para el avance económico y social. Son las barreras íntimamente asociadas a un orden económico internacional injusto e insostenible que perpetúa condiciones de privilegio para los países en desarrollo y relega a condiciones de subdesarrollo a una parte mayoritaria de la humanidad. Sin atender a esos temas, no se podrá alcanzar de ningún modo el desarrollo sostenible ni fortalecer la Agenda 2030 y erradicar la pobreza en tiempos de múltiples crisis. Muchas gracias, Presidenta.
Muchas gracias, Cuba. So, this was the last speaker for this morning. As mentioned before, we will continue the ministerial roundtable and the general discussion after we conclude our discussion on the priority theme on global cooperation on science, technology, and innovation for development this afternoon. So this afternoon, the session will start at 3 p.m. with agenda item 3. And so we will take up the priority theme on global cooperation on science, technology, and innovation for development. And now, I would like to invite delegations to the opening of the CSTD exhibition, which is scheduled to start at 1:15 on the priority theme of global cooperation on STI for development. The opening will take place in the gallery area here on the 3rd floor. The meeting is adjourned.